You are still here. I do not mean that as a figure of speech. I do not mean it as encouragement dressed in simple language. I mean it as the most literal and important fact available to you in this moment. You are still here. Think about what that actually means. Think about everything that tried to change that fact. The losses that should have broken you and did not. The seasons that were darker than anyone on the outside fully understood. The moments where the weight of everything accumulated into something that felt, from inside it, like it might be permanent. The years that took things from you. People, possibilities, versions of yourself that you had to let go of before you were ready, and kept moving forward anyway, asking you to move with them, and you did. Every time you did. You are still here. That is not a small thing wrapped in modest language. That is an extraordinary fact about a person who chose, again and again, in circumstances that did not always make choosing easy, to remain, to keep going, to show up for one more day, even when one more day was all that could be managed, and to do it again the day after that, and the day after that, until the days became something more than survival, and started in their quiet way to become a life again. But here is what I want to sit with you in today. Most people do not understand what it means that you are still here. The world moves quickly, and it does not pause to honor the particular achievement of a person who has made it through what you have made it through with their essential self still intact. It does not stop to acknowledge the specific courage, and it is courage, even when it did not feel like anything more than getting through the day, of continuing to be present in a life that has asked more of you than most people's lives have asked of them. Most people do not understand what still here actually costs. You do. You understand it from the inside, which is the only place that understanding is real. You know what it took. You know the mornings that did not want to start and the nights that did not want to end, and the in-between hours where you held things together with whatever you had, which was sometimes very little, and somehow it was enough, because you made it enough, because the alternative was not acceptable to the part of you that has always, even in its quietest moments, chosen life. That part of you is remarkable, and it is still here too, right alongside everything else, still making the same choice it has always made, still oriented, even when it does not feel that way, even when the orientation is barely perceptible, toward rather than away. I want to ask you something about that. If someone you loved had been through everything you have been through, every loss, every season of darkness, every moment of carrying more than was fair, every year of showing up for a life that did not always make showing up feel worthwhile, and they were still here, still intact, still capable of presence and connection and the particular kind of warmth that only comes from someone who has genuinely been through things, what would you think of them? You would think they were extraordinary. You would not hesitate. You would see in them something worth honoring, something that deserved recognition, not for the performance of resilience, but for the real thing, the messy, imperfect, sometimes barely holding together real thing. You would see someone whose continued presence in the world was not a given but a choice, repeated, renewed, sometimes agonizing, but always ultimately made in the direction of remaining. Now I need you to extend to yourself the same recognition you would give to that person without hesitation. Because that person is you. It has always been you. And the fact that you are still here is not something to be passed over lightly in the rush toward whatever comes next. It is something to be stopped at, stood in, recognized for what it is. It is evidence of something in you that is not finished, that has never been finished. That will not allow itself to be finished, not by loss or by time or by the accumulated weight of a life lived in full contact with all of its difficulty and all of its beauty and all of the space in between. That something is still running, right now, in the breath you are taking as these words reach you, in the part of you that is listening and finding, somewhere in the listening, something that feels like recognition, something that says, yes, I know this, I have known this, I just had not heard it said out loud in quite this way before. I want to talk about what still here actually opens up, because most people treat their own continued existence as a neutral fact, as the background against which life happens, rather than as something remarkable in its own right. And when you treat still here as neutral, you start to take it for granted. And when you take it for granted, you stop asking the question that still here is always implicitly asking, which is, now what? Not in the pressured sense, not in the sense of productivity or achievement, or the demonstration of a life well used, in the more essential sense, the sense of a person who is genuinely present in their own existence and genuinely curious about what that existence still contains. Because still here is not a conclusion. It has never been a conclusion. It is the continuing premise of a story that is not finished. And a story that is not finished has more in it. Not necessarily more of the same. More of the same might not be what the remaining chapters need, but more, something. The particular and unpredictable and entirely unwritten something that is available only to a person who is still here and willing to be present enough to find it. What is that something for you? Not what it should be. Not what would make sense given your age and your circumstances and the reasonable expectations that the world holds for people in your position. What it actually is, underneath all of that. What the quietest, most honest part of you already knows is there, waiting for you to stop moving past it quickly enough to avoid having to admit that you still want it. That wanting is still here too. I know it is, because wanting is what still here produces when a person allows themselves to be fully present in it, when they stop treating their own continued existence as background and start treating it as the main event, when they let the fact of being alive, at this age, in this body, with this history after all of this, land with its full weight instead of managing it into something smaller and more comfortable. Let it land. Let the fact of still here have its full significance. Let it be the remarkable thing it is, rather than the ordinary thing it pretends to be, when you are moving through it too quickly to notice. You made it through things that not everyone makes it through. You are standing on the other side of a life that has asked everything of you at various points, and you gave it, and you are still standing, still present, still capable of being reached by something. By these words, by a conversation, by a moment of unexpected beauty, by the particular quality of light at a certain time of day that hits something in you and makes it known, briefly and completely, that being alive is not nothing. That is not nothing. That is the whole thing. You are still here, and still here means still possible, still open, still containing more than what has already been expressed, still capable of mornings that feel like arrivals rather than continuations of something that has already been decided. Still here means the story is not over. It means you get another page. And another page, after a life like yours, after everything it took to arrive at still here, is not a small gift. It is the only gift that was ever worth having. Use it, all of it, because you are still here, and that is more than most people will ever understand. There is a particular kind of presence that becomes available to people who have survived enough to know that survival is not guaranteed. A quality of attention that the young cannot quite access because they have not yet learned, in the bone-deep way that only experience teaches, that any given moment is not a rehearsal for another one. That this conversation, this light, this breath, this particular configuration of the world as it exists right now, is not a draft, it is the thing itself. You know that. Not as a philosophical position, as a lived reality that your years have made undeniable, and that knowing, as uncomfortable as it sometimes is, as much weight as it carries, is also the source of something that looks, from the outside, like wisdom, but feels, from the inside, more like clarity. The clarity of someone who no longer has the luxury of treating their own life as something to get to eventually. Who knows, with a precision that younger people can theorize about but not yet feel, that eventually is not a guaranteed address. That the life worth living is the one being lived right now, in this moment, with whatever is available in it, which is always more than the habit of not noticing makes it appear. That clarity is yours. It came at a price. Everything real does. But it is here, and it is one of the things that still here makes available to you that nothing else could have. Use it to be present. Fully, deliberately, without the distraction of what was, or the anxiety of what might be. Present in what is. In the actual texture of the days that remain. In the conversations still available to you. In the relationships that are still here alongside you, also surviving, also choosing, also deserving of the full attention of someone who understands what it means that they are still there to be attended to. Use it to stop saving yourself for later. There is no later that is more real than now. There is no moment ahead of this one that is more deserving of your full presence than this one. The habit of waiting for the right time, the right circumstances, the right version of yourself to show up before you allow yourself to fully inhabit your own life, that habit has cost you enough. It ends now. Not because you decided to be different, because you are still here. And still here, truly understood, leaves no room for the postponement of living. You are still here, That is the beginning of everything that remains. Start there. Stay there. It is enough. It has always been enough.